Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin had a phone call yesterday. We're going to outline everything that's going on with the president, the United States, Vladimir Putin, and Ukraine. All of that stuff, kind of catch you up on what's going on there. Chicago crime is through the roof, and you'll never guess who Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, is blaming. And also, Elon Musk said some hilarious things that you have to hear. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live on today, December 8th, 2021, the year when everything is supposed to be better. Ending that year, maybe 2022 will be better. A lot of stuff happening today. Joe Biden had a phone call with people say President Putin, really dictator Putin, Vladimir Putin of Russia, the current leader of Russia, richest man in the world. They had a call yesterday. I'm going to outline why they even got onto that call in the first place, what they talked about, and what was said. Really interesting that might not be super pertinent on the domestic front, but stuff we have to know about because the world is working around us and it's really, really interesting. It's really, really complicated. And it's good for us to understand what's actually happening with regards to Russia, with the United States, with China, even though we're not talking about China today. So all that's coming up. Got to talk about Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot said something hilarious that you're going to either laugh or vomit. One of those two things. And also Elon Musk said the only thing that my political beliefs stem from, Elon Musk said in 30 seconds. You have to stay tuned for that. I got to get to this. This is the first thing that we're wanting to talk about today. So there's a lot of news stories out there. There's a lot of commentary on what's happening and what. And article after article I was reading last night trying to figure out if there was one good one to bring to you. There wasn't. And I was trying to really want to baseline explain what the heck is happening. A lot of people heard yesterday that Joe Biden had a video conference with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Not a lot of people know why. So my goal here is to explain that so where you can regurgitate it to your kid or your parent or whoever it is that you need to, just so that you have a clear understanding of what is going on with regards to Russia, with Ukraine, Putin, Biden, etc. So that's where we're going here. Just kind of explain that and then talk about what actually happened yesterday. If you don't know, Ukraine borders Russia. It's right there, and there's Ukraine and Russia. Look at a map if you want to see it. I don't have one for you, but that's what it is. Russia in World War II, I believe, got split up in a ton of different ways. Not World War II, sorry. In the 90s, the Soviet Union got split up a ton of different ways. Ukraine was one of those sections of Russia that got split up there. So there are a lot of Russian speakers and people who identify as, in an actual sense, as Russian. If you remember, in 2014, Vladimir Putin annexed the peninsula of Crimea. You probably remember the term Crimea. Oh, the Russians invaded Crimea. He still has it. That is still in Russian control. Now, there wasn't a ton of pushback because a lot of people that lived in that area were Russian sympathizers. They were kind of sectioned off when the Soviet Union fell, and they just kind of happened to live there. So when Russia came in, they already spoke the language. They knew the culture that was coming into where they were, and Putin just kind of crept across. There was no big battle. There was no fighting. There really wasn't anything. But that happened in 2014. Russia just kind of annexed Crimea. Imagine if we were to just go take Baja California, the little peninsula that comes off of Mexico, right beneath California. If we just decided, you know what, that's ours now. Nobody would really do anything about it. Because one, we are who we are. But that's a similar situation of how Russia kind of just took over Crimea. And the world kind of didn't do anything. Fast forward to now. Vladimir Putin has, in the last couple weeks, issued supply chains that run from Moscow to the border of Ukraine and has amassed about 175,000 people along the Ukrainian border. Why? Well, like we just talked about in 2014, he just kind of took a big section of Ukraine and nobody did anything about it. It is likely that he's trying to do the same thing here. This is where President Biden enters in. We don't want that. Okay, we'll get into maybe some of the reasons why we don't want that, but also there's some part of me as an American, how much do I care? This seems like a European problem. If Vladimir Putin were to take his 175,000, maybe 200,000 troops that are on the border of Ukraine and go into Ukraine, then Europe has a problem. England, Germany, France, all of your surrounding countries are going to have to decide what they're going to do if Vladimir Putin decides to take any portion of Ukraine. Do they respond with economic sanctions? Do they respond with military force? Nobody quite knows what to do. Insert the United States, because the United States continually is the world police, I guess. And again, I'm not entirely sure how much we need to do that, but because everyone is dependent on what we do, countries kind of look to us. And that is why President Biden had a phone call with President Putin to try and gauge the situation and see what it is that they're going to do. Jake Sullivan was given a press conference yesterday regarding what the call was about. Listen to this from Jake Sullivan yesterday. Again, the question that we all have is, will Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine? Well, listen to what Jake Sullivan said that the president said.
Thanks so much. In the days leading up to this call, the White House and administration officials said repeatedly their assessment so far was that Putin had not made a decision over whether to invade Ukraine. So did President Biden get clarity from him on whether or not that is his intention?
We still do not believe that President Putin has made a decision. What President Biden did today was lay out very clearly the consequences if he chooses to move. He also laid out an alternative path that is fundamentally in keeping with the basic principles and propositions that have guided America in the Euro-Atlantic area for the past 70 years. And ultimately, we will see in the days ahead through actions, not through words, what course of action Russia chooses to take.
So there's Jake Sullivan saying that we don't know what he's going to do. We have not been clear on whether or not he's actually going to move into Ukraine. What President Biden did yesterday was threaten sanctions. Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, said, I believe it was Monday, maybe it was Friday, that military intervention is off the table, basically saying that the United States military is not going to intervene if the Russians decide to invade Ukraine. That is a big, huge thing. If you're Ukraine and you're thinking, well, so he didn't say that specifically. When asked if the United States was going to intervene militarily, Lloyd Austin said, well, we've been supporting the Ukraine military effort for several years and will continue to do so by supplying them with military training, infrastructure for their military, which Ukraine takes that as, okay, so they're not coming. The United States is not going to come to our defense. Again, we'll talk more about it later, but I'm not entirely sure how much we need to come to Europe's defense if Europe can't defend itself. Again, we'll hit more of that later. But Lloyd Austin basically said, we're not coming to their defense militarily. So what options does that leave us with? That leaves us with economic financial sanctions. It has been known to Vladimir Putin and pretty much everybody in the financial community that if Russia was cut off with your international banking institutions, that would be a huge problem for the Russian economy. They don't want that to happen, and I believe nobody's actually quite saying what actually is on the table specifically. I believe that is what President Biden was telling Vladimir Putin yesterday. Look, I don't think he outright said we're not going to intervene militarily, but we're going to have some pretty hefty financial sanctions on you if you decide to go into Ukraine. Let me play the other side of the coin really quick. There's reason for why Vladimir Putin would want to take Ukraine. They don't really have any big natural defenses regarding Russia. In terms of geographical defenses, the United States has two massive oceans on its side. Ain't nobody going to come over here and invade without us knowing and being able to readily prepare for that. Russia doesn't have that. So they want a place like Ukraine to, at the very least, if someone was going to invade Russia, have troops take days and days and days of hiking or trudging through, not hiking, I know we have vehicles now, but trudging through the wilderness to try and get to Moscow. That is one of the reasons why Putin wants Ukraine. Also, he believes that there are a lot of people in Ukraine that, again, sympathize with the way that Russians do things. That's why he wants it. Now, it is interesting what Jake Sullivan was saying there is what he said later on in the press conference was there's a lot of options that are on the table that were on the table in 2014 that we weren't prepared to use. We're prepared to use those now. What does that actually mean? Here's what is interesting about this. 2014 was the last time Russia decided to just take something. They took the Crimean Peninsula, and it's still theirs. That was under the Obama administration. I don't know if you recall this, but 2016, 2020, when Donald Trump was in office, they didn't take anything. They didn't invade anywhere because I think the Russians were probably pretty scared of what Donald Trump might do. Just something to consider when we're talking about this whole Russian-Ukraine situation. On top of that, what's interesting about the 2014 situation and how it is now is that a lot of the countries surrounding Ukraine, again, this is the United States having to go to the defense of Europe. A lot of the countries surrounding Ukraine have had some mobility in their approach to Russia. Take, for example, Germany. We're getting into the weeds here. But again, I think this is important for people to know because, like I said, we're talking about it now. Why should we care as the United States? I'm not entirely sure. Given the fact that if Russia decides to invade Ukraine, that seems solely like a European problem, wouldn't Germany, Poland, Ukraine itself, the United Kingdom, Spain, France, all of those countries, wouldn't they not want to have this massive fighting on the border of Ukraine? Wouldn't they want to stop it themselves? Here's the problem. There's a little bit of a conflict of interest that the Bush administration agreed with the Obama administration, agreed with the Trump administration, and President Joe Biden has completely flipped. That is the natural gas pipeline coming from Moscow to Germany. What is that? Okay, how does this pipeline relate to border troops on the border of Ukraine? This pipeline is called the Nord Stream 2. The Bush administration said, we can't have Russia piping natural gas into Germany, so there's a bunch of refineries in Germany. They can then disperse it to the rest of Europe. The Bush administration said if Russia were to get this pipeline going from Moscow to Germany, Germany would then be dependent on Russian natural gas coming from this pipeline, and therefore all of Europe would be dependent in some way, shape, or form on Russian natural gas. The United States said, we can't do that. We cannot have all of Europe be dependent on Russian natural gas because then that gives Vladimir Putin, not well liked in the international community, a ton more power that we don't want him to have. So the Bush administration decided to put sanctions on the company building the pipeline, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So that pipeline was never finished, again, during the Bush administration. Then the Obama administration came in and agreed. Who would have thought? They agreed with the Bush administration in that it is in the U.S.'s best interest that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline does not go through and we don't give Vladimir Putin more power. Then the Trump administration came in and guess what? Agreed with Obama and Bush. We can't let the Russians build the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to get gas, natural gas from Russia to Germany, then disperse to the rest of Europe. That would give Vladimir Putin way too much power. Here's the thing. Joe Biden came into office and then signed off on it. We revoked all of the sanctions that were put on the company building the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So now it's pretty much finished. It was already like 80% of the way there. If it's not finished already, it's going to be finished very, very soon. What does that mean? That means that natural gas is now flowing from Russia into the German refineries, and then those natural gas products are going out to the rest of Europe. Meaning that when it comes to defending all of Europe, Germany specifically, but also the UK, also all of these other European countries now have conflicts of interest because they're going to, if not already, be very dependent on Russian natural gas. So, if the Nord Stream 2 pipeline goes through, Vladimir Putin then goes and takes Ukraine, then Germany, United Kingdom, Poland, all of these other countries then go attack Vladimir Putin. He just says, all right, we're cutting off the natural gas. You guys are screwed because now you're dependent on our natural gas. And what are you going to do now? There's a massive conflict of interest within Europe, which is why the Bush administration, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, all of those, again, people, I don't know if you know this, but those administrations were very much in disagreement on a lot of different things. All of them agreed that we can't have the Russian pipeline go through. Because Joe Biden earlier this year decided to let that pipeline continue its construction, now we have a depleted German interest in stopping Putin from doing anything because they fear that they're going to get their supply cut off. I know this is a long-winded thing, but again, the whole goal here is, and I know we've got some pretty dedicated watchers here, is to try and explain the nuances going around with Vladimir Putin lining up on Ukraine. Again, if you're just joining us, Vladimir Putin has almost 200,000 troops along the border of Ukraine. He's got supply lines going to those troops. It could be a huge ordeal. Joe Biden was on a phone call with him yesterday, decided, Lloyd Austin again said, we're probably not going to use military force. So what other option do we have is strictly just economic sanctions. Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, said, we don't know what Putin's going to do. So what the bottom line here is, we don't know. We don't have any idea. We have no idea what Putin's going to do. And if he does do something, we don't know what's going to happen. President Zelensky is the president of Ukraine, former TV actor. That's a whole other thing. Has been wanting U.S. to come and help them, but I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Should we intervene? Is this worth? So here's a comment from Michael Lynch saying, why did the Germans agree knowing future problems? Because they're money hungry. Seriously, it's a good question. They're money hungry people too. Those capitalists in Germany, the oil refineries that operate in Germany, want the government to send them oil because, look, they're going to make their money and they're going to be rich off in whatever country they want to be in if anything were to go wrong. It's strictly money thing. That's why I think Germany has agreed to take natural gas from the pipeline. Also, again, there's financial interest on both sides. Russia wants the money from pumping their natural gas to Germany. Germany wants the money from sending that natural gas to the rest of Europe. Yeah. So let me see if there's any more comments here. So that's basically it. We don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of up in the air. And I don't think anything is really off the table. We'll let you know if the U.S. decides to start mobilizing troops to Ukraine. Again, here's what I think Donald Trump might have done, or somebody of that kind of nature might have said, all right, NATO. Oh, there's another thing too. Putin demanded, or was expected to demand, again, we don't entirely know everything that happened in that phone call, was expected to demand that Ukraine would never become a part of NATO. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, all of those NATO countries, if one of them is attacked, all of them are at war. Ukraine is not a part of NATO, and Vladimir Putin does not want Ukraine to be a part of NATO. So now the stance and the policy that the United States has is that any country that wants to join NATO can join NATO. They have to agree to all the terms and conditions, obviously, but that is the policy that we currently have. So there's that whole deal of whether or not, like, look, if Russia attacks Ukraine, we don't have a NATO responsibility to use military force against that. But again, do we want war in Europe? I don't know, and nobody really knows. So anybody here's talking about, oh, we should do this, and this, I don't know. It's all reactionary. So if anything happens there, we'll let you know and kind of bring it to you. But that's the situation going on. If you're hearing a bunch of stuff about Vladimir Putin, Joe Biden, Ukraine, all that sort of stuff, now you have at least a decent understanding of what the heck is actually going on there. I I did it in a succinct way that kind of makes sense in the flow chart of things that are happening. But again, if you're just joining us, Vladimir Putin has about 200,000 troops lined up on the Ukraine border, and we don't know if he's going in or what he's going to do. And also, I don't entirely know what we're supposed to do if he does. Again, there's a couple different options. Maybe we'll talk about that later on down the week if something happens. Back to domestic policy, or at least domestic, let me see. Oh, this is interesting. I'm not entirely sure if Peter was what he was saying here, but it says, and bring the pipelines soon. We have our own. It is interesting that Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline project. No pipelines in the United States, but Russia gets their pipeline to Germany, which bypasses Ukraine, which really financially debilitates Ukraine and their ability to defend themselves, which is now what we're having to do. It's craziness over there. We'll bring you more stuff if it happens. Want to get to this back on the domestic front. Lori Lightfoot, if you know her act. Lori Lightfoot is the crazy woke mayor of Chicago. Remember, she was the one that said only black and brown people can interview me. I wonder if that's still a thing for her. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't followed up with that in a couple months, but she said only black and brown journalists can get a one-on-one interview. At the time, I said, Lori Lightfoot, I would love to sit down and have an interview. Being a brown guy, I think I passed the tests to your very, very racist policy in interviewing. So I'd love to sit down with an interview. But she's also a crazy person and doesn't quite understand what is going on in her city, so it seems. This clip is from a newscast outlining all of the brazen robberies. We've been talking about this for the last 3 weeks almost, hit it every single day. The robberies going on in the United States is absolutely astounding. California has seen a ton of them, but also cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, New York. All of these places are having massive robberies going on in their retail stores. This is a clip from that newscast regarding what Mayor Lightfoot thinks should happen. I'm going to pause it midway through because I want to discuss that before we get into this other guy who's talking. He's pretty interesting too. Check this out from the mayor of Chicagoland.
Mayor Lightfoot saying some retailers are not doing their part to protect their own stores.
I'm disappointed that they're not doing more to take safety and make it a priority. For example, we still have retailers that won't institute plans like having security officers in their stores, making sure that they've got cameras that are actually operational.
But the mayor and others.
Holy cow! I repeat, holy cow! Mayor Lightfoot is sitting there saying security needs to be the goal of the retailers. The retailers are the ones that are supposed to provide security. There are so many things wrong with that. Look, right off the top of the bat, if you foster a culture of crime, you're going to get more crime. I don't think that should be really a surprise to anybody, but Mayor Lightfoot saying that, look, first things first, they were big on the whole defund the police. Remember, Lori Lightfoot, and I should follow up on this too, but had these crazy vaccine mandates, and I think a third of the cops in Chicago were on the chopping block as late as last month. Again, I don't entirely know where that story is. Maybe I'll follow up with that tomorrow and get some information on that. But Lori Lightfoot saying, well, it's disappointing. We have retailers who aren't providing their own security. Dude, what are they supposed to do? Because Chicago, if you don't know this about Chicago, has some of the most strict gun laws in the country. And if you're going to hire security, you have to arm them, I would think, because if you don't, what else are they going to do? No, stop that. Hey, you, stop. If this is a solution that the mayor thinks is going to work, again, if you think that more security is going to help, again, on the private side, you have to let that security be able to stop a threat of violence if it were to come. If you just have security guards, we saw that Louis Vuitton store a couple weeks ago. Do you remember that Louis Vuitton store? A bunch of people rushed into the store. They had a security guard. They had cameras. It didn't help. You know why? Because the security guard is just a basic rent-a-cop who doesn't have any means of stopping anybody. And that guy, by the way, he tried. Like, that guy tried to stop the people. He grabbed a couple people, was wrestling some people down. But what more do you need them to do? Seriously, I don't know what she's suggesting is an actual solution. You need to hire more security guards. You need to have cameras. Well, yeah, that one store that had 15 people rush into it, yeah, the security guard and the cameras didn't really do all that much. And if you think that that's going to be the saving grace for your crime-riddled community, you need to allow those securities to have an ability, a weapon of force to stop people who are going to completely come in and rob the store. Whew, man, that's, again, fostering a culture of crime. Look at this. Listen to this. This is a clip further on into this, where she does say, the reporter does say that they're calling for her and a bunch of the community members are calling for more strict policy when it comes to criminals being arrested in the city. Listen to this.
But the mayor and others saying there also has to be greater accountability for those caught committing crimes.
We have to make sure that we don't allow our city to be torn up like that, and we have to send a strong message that is unacceptable. And if you do, we have to arrest you. But once you arrest them, you have to help them.
What that guy said was great until like the very last part. I'm not entirely sure what he said there, but he was saying that we have to enforce the rules. If you do something wrong, we have to arrest you. At the very end, he said, and then we have to help them. I don't know what that means. I don't know what help means. Does it offer a very strict deterrent to the rest of the people on the street by keeping them in jail for a very long time because they committed a crime that hurt other people in the community? Maybe that's it. But I don't know what he means by help. But even the super woke in Chicago are now saying, okay, we need to actually crack down and maybe enforce the law here in a couple places. Because again, security guards and security cameras ain't going to do much, Lori Lightfoot, if you don't give the security guards the ability to stop people with force. Geez, let me see if there's any comments that we can read here. Deborah says bail them out, of course. Yeah, if you remember, Kamala Harris was big. This was in Minneapolis, but Kamala Harris was participating in a fund that bailed criminals out of jail. That's if they had to get bailed out of jail in the first place. Remember, in California or places like California, the whole bail reform thing, now it's just bail abolition. They're just trying to get rid of bail altogether. So that's what's going on there. Wow, this William, you had a hilarious comment. I'm not going to read this. It's regarding the mayor's looks. She looks a little bit scary. William put it in some funnier words, but I'm not going to bring that on because I feel like that's beneath us here on this show. I want to get to this. This is great. So I like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not. I wouldn't call him a traditional conservative. I wouldn't call myself a traditional conservative. But Elon Musk understands the government is not good at a lot of things. I've said this since I started doing this show, since I started commenting on politics. The only thing that I believe is that the government is not good at things, which I believe is proven in countless circumstances, in countless there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that government is not good at doing things. And therefore, because they're not good at things, they should do less things. Elon Musk, in an interview in the Wall Street Journal, put that more succinctly. Listen to this. This is, I thought this was great. Watch this.
At a certain point, really what you're doing is capital allocation. So it's not money for personal expenditures. What you're doing is capital allocation. And it does not make sense to take the job of capital allocation away from people who have demonstrated great skill in capital allocation and give it to an entity that has demonstrated very poor skill in capital allocation, which is the government. You can think of the government essentially as a corporation in the limit. The government is simply the biggest corporation with a monopoly on violence, and where you have no recourse. So how much money do you want to give that entity?
So there's Elon Musk saying the exact thing that all of my political ideology is based on. Look, the government taking away financial allocation, and what he's talking about money, he's talking about taxes. The government saying that, well, we need to take all of the tax dollars and redisperse it amongst the citizens. We will do that. Well, look, financial allocation can be done by your top people doing that. And the top people who do the top people who allocate finances and resources and all that sort of stuff don't work for the government. I'm telling you, that's just the way it is. Elon Musk will never take a government job unless he can't run for president. He's born in South Africa. Elon Musk will never work for the government. Elon Musk is one of the best people in the history of the world at financial allocation, which is what he's talking about. So he's saying that there are people that are proven to be talented in job creation, financial allocation, innovation, all of these sorts of things. There are people around the country that have been proven to be good at these sorts of things. The government is not one of them. The government is just the biggest corporation out there that exercises their will at the point of a gun. Seriously, if you weren't afraid of being taken from your home at the point of a gun to jail for not paying your taxes, would you pay your taxes? No, he's saying the government has a monopoly on violence and they get to take your money at the point of a gun and reallocate it themselves. There's also no evidence to show that the government is any better than anyone else. There's a ton of evidence to show the government is way worse at reallocating funds. And so he's basically saying, why would you give that entity more power? I don't know, Elon. I don't understand it either. We agree on that. I'm not entirely sure why you would want the government to do more things. This is my only political belief. The government is bad at doing things and should do less things. Is that two beliefs? No, I think that's a combined belief. Bad at things, therefore should do less things, not and. And Elon Musk seems to agree. Again, there are people that have proven themselves to be good at allocating finances, allocating resources. None of them work for the government. The government is bad at it and has a long track record of doing poorly at those things. Wanted to get some of these comments regarding this. Robert says the government is good for nothing. Yes. And look, a lot of people then say, be careful how I word this here. A lot of people say, well, you people on the right still want a ton of money for the military. Yes, I do. If the government has one objective, it should be to protect the American people from powers abroad. And I believe that we should give a ton of money. Now, is that saying that the military is the most efficient form of government? No. I think the military can also have some massive reforms in it in terms of trimming fat, cutting money where it doesn't need to be spent, and all that sort of stuff. I believe we have the best military in the world, and I believe that we should have the best military in the world to prevent a lot of different things around the world. But even then, I would say that the military can have some tuning up. I know I have a lot of military friends, and their response to me is generally like they're grateful that they served. All of the normal standard things that you would say to military personnel. But to say that it's infallible is ridiculous. There's a lot of gaps that could be plugged, even in the best institution that the government provides. Now, then you go down from there. Then you talk about the infrastructure people. Then you talk about the social benefits, the social safety net people. Holy cow! Talk about fat to trim. But yeah, it's that's what we think. Elon Musk is one of the coolest guys ever, says Ross. Yeah, I believe it. Wendell with an old-timey quote from President Ronald Reagan: "The government isn't the answer to the problem. The government is the problem." I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Michael says small government is the best. Yeah, the less the government does, the better off people are. So let me see if there's any more comments that we can get to there. Isn't he making a Google implant chip for human brains? Yeah, Devin, it is. That's what he's doing. Not sure if that's a good thing. We'll see. Oh, this is fun. Glenn says, opinions. No facts at all. No facts from this guy at all. Okay, Glenn, if you would like to comment and give us an example of one thing that the government does better than anybody else, better than anybody in the private sector, better than anybody else, if you can give me a factual example of that happening, I would gladly read it on the air. That sounds great. You know what? Shoot us an email, dclive@dailycaller.com. Would love to appreciate it. Would appreciate it. Would love to have your commentary, because again, if you think that there are government entities out there, again, talking about facts, if you think there are government entities out there that are better than the private sector at literally anything, I would love to hear about them, because I, to this point in my life, am unaware. Yeah. Let me see. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to be right back here tomorrow. If anything happens on the Putin thing, I know we did 25 minutes on Putin and Russia. If you want to get a breakdown of what the heck is going on in Ukraine, Russia, go rewatch the show. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube. Grab the podcast wherever podcasts are available. You can check it all out there. Also, if you haven't already, give me a follow on the Instagram account or the social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB pretty much everywhere. Social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can follow along with what's going on. We post a lot of hilarious clips from the show. If you don't get the chance to catch the whole thing, you can see some of the hilarious clips on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all that sort of stuff. Great place to keep up with the conversation, all that stuff going on. Also, you can get all of the hilarious t-shirts. I'm currently wearing my Let's Go Brandon t-shirt. These are available at any of my social media platforms. You get the Let's Go Brandon t-shirt, the Capitalism Rocks, the what? Joe Biden catchphrase. Corruptifornia, you're welcome, love capitalism, gas prices higher than Hunter Biden, capitalism. All of these hilarious t-shirts you can get on any of my social media platforms, but also you can go to capitalistpropaganda.us, pick those up whenever you get a chance. You can get them. Somebody you know, a dad, grandpa, uncle, somebody you know would think this t-shirt is a hilarious gift for Christmas. So do them a favor. Go to capitalistpropaganda.us and pick up one of the Let's Go Brandon t-shirts, the Joe Biden hilarious catchphrase t-shirts, and make their Christmas just a little bit more merry. That's going to do it for us today. We appreciate everybody checking in, watching, staying on. If you missed any of this, go check it out on the podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll see you right back here tomorrow with a brand new episode of anything that happened over the next couple days, over the last couple days. See you then. God bless America.